With the recent developments in machine learning and the ever-popular ChatGPT, you've probably heard a lot about AI recently and how it's predicted to change all sorts of industries. But today I'm going to focus on a more fun one, gaming. AI has been growing extremely rapidly lately, and it's expected to continue to grow even faster with all the newfound excitement that is probably mostly as a result of ChatGPT's wild success. Suddenly, everyone wants in on AI technology, and investment in AI is skyrocketing. So how has AI in gaming changed, and how will it change the industry and video games in the future? To find out, I think it's a good idea to start with the definition of artificial intelligence, so we know what we're looking for. According to Alan Turing, who is generally thought of as the father of artificial intelligence, AI is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. If you ask me, this is not enough, because intelligence is extremely subjective. Thankfully, Alan Turing is also known for developing the Turing test, which proposes that something is defined as artificial intelligence if it can mimic human responses under specific conditions. What this really means is that artificial intelligence just does something that humans could usually do without it. In the context of gaming, this could mean many different things, including something as simple as the most ancient NPCs, or non-player characters, in games of all time, like the enemy from Space Invaders, which is generally known as the first NPC in gaming. But maybe the first AI in gaming was actually the dragon from Adventure, because it possessed the ability to adapt to the human player's actions, whereas the Space Invaders characters just followed pre-programmed movement and shooting. Either way, while machine learning is a huge step in our current games, AI has actually been present in games since some of the oldest games, as any NPC could be said to be mimicking human behavior by playing with or against the player instead of the human second player. Since then, games have come a long way, and game characters have gotten much more complex, having many different possible actions based on human decisions. However, even today these actions are typically programmed by a developer, meaning that the number of possible responses game characters have is always limited to a certain degree. To achieve full player freedom to interact with the game world, the player would not only have to be able to do whatever they want, but have the game react to any action that the player can think of. For example, imagine a dialogue between a human character and an in-game character where the human can say anything they want and the in-game character will respond appropriately. This is the type of thing that could require a more complex type of AI, machine learning. So why don't all our games already include this technology? Well, according to AI in games, there are 3 reasons that machine learning hasn't been used very much in games until now: iterative development, production pipelines, and resources. Iterative development means that stuff in games is tested over and over again and tweaked each time in order to make it refined, but this is hard to do because you can't directly change an algorithm created by machine learning, and instead you'd have to completely retrain the algorithm with different restrictions every time you wanted to change something. The production pipeline, or the most effective steps of production for game development until now, did not really fit AI tools because they are hard to use and most game developers did not know how to use them. Finally, the resources used for machine learning algorithms are quite expensive, as it takes a lot of computing power, data, and expertise to run these systems compared to traditional methods. Today, these things still hold true, but that seems to be quickly changing as people become more excited and therefore invested in AI. Origins is a mystery game made by in-world AI intended to showcase NPCs powered by AI. After an explosion in Metropolis, you've arrived on the scene as the lead detective. Your job is to question witnesses who are NPCs powered by large language models to solve the case. These NPCs are given information on their personalities, knowledge, and opinions. You can talk back to these NPCs freely by talking into your microphone, and the NPCs will talk back to you using large language models restricted by their personalities, knowledge, and opinions using text-to-speech. Another project from Google and Stanford promises to give NPCs an entire life within video game simulations. NPCs powered by ChatGPT are given about a paragraph of text telling them who they are, and using that information they learn to live their lives within the game environment. As they live in the world, they form memories, and they use those memories to make decisions about their future behavior. This has the potential to create extremely real characters in games that don't have to be programmed at all. This would change video games as we know it, as talking to NPCs would be more like talking to a real person living in a simulation than a character created by a developer. While these never-seen-before features are super cool, there is a bigger change that AI has the potential to make in the gaming industry that has to do with the actual creation of games as we know it. Generative AI is quickly changing the gaming industry by allowing developers to create games quicker and cheaper using AI tools. Another tool called Blockade Labs uses AI to let you create skybox images from text prompts and generate 3D worlds using simple outline drawings and use them in Unity and Unreal Engine 5. A service called Luma Labs AI has NERF technology, or Neural Radiance Field, where you can take a bunch of pictures of something in the real world, such as an object or an entire real life location, or even people, and AI stitches it into a 3D object. This can be used with another piece of technology from a research paper from March of 2023 called Instruct NERF to NERF that lets you edit these NERFs with text prompts. NVIDIA, Unity, Unreal Engine 5, and Ubisoft either have already or are working on AI tools to create digital assets for games. All of these could potentially be the most helpful to smaller developers as it makes it faster and also cheaper to create big games, which is the biggest concern for small studios with lower budgets. Big studios will probably always have a little bit of an advantage, but this could seriously close the gap, letting more smaller studios and developers dominate the gaming market. Overall, AI offers huge opportunities to companies that will most likely revolutionize the gaming industry as we know it. AI offers the ability to create big, complex games more quickly, efficiently, cheaper, and with cool new types of NPCs and other AI-powered features. This should be very enticing to both big and small game studios, as well as individual developers. Next up is my interview with Chris Hine, the Director of Customer Engineering at Google. Mr. Hine gives a lot of presentations on AI and how it's going to affect different fields, and has also been an avid gamer, so I'm hoping that he can give me some insight onto how the gaming market is changing. In your opinion, what are the main benefits that artificial intelligence brings to the gaming industry? How does it enhance gameplay and user experience?
So I think one of the things that's really exciting about it is the originality aspect of it, right? Most of my prime video gaming years, you'd get to the point where you knew exactly, like the old school, like you watch these videos on YouTube of people playing Mario and they know like exactly where they're going to jump and hit the button at every single point in the level, right? And then if you're playing like a role-playing game or something like that, you know what the NPCs are going to say to you, right? Like, because each one has a very strict script and it sticks to it. What I think is really interesting now is that you can have the AI systems, both from a competitive standpoint, but also from like a cooperative standpoint, be interestingly augmentative to the experience, right? So it won't simply be, you can start to have games that evolve over time, that change and react depending on how each human plays with it. You can have partnerships with an AI system that can react to your moves and work together with you on a cooperative strategy. And so I think it's going to be, that's where the most interesting parts to me are is this, it really unlocks a little bit of the open world gameplay aspect, as well as just that feeling of every time you play the game, it's a little bit different because you just, however you act, it's going to react to it, and it's not purely like on a if then else basis, like if the character does this, then do this, else do that, right? It's going to be a lot more interesting, just like when you play a game against another person.
What are the challenges or limitations that game developers face when implementing AI in games, and how can they overcome these challenges?
As we kind of talked about a little bit, like one of the big challenges is processing power, right? So the most sophisticated AI models require a ton of processing power. And so like as an example, if you were going to be calling the ChatGPT API, right? So that let's say you wanted to have a character in a game that responds to whatever you say to it. You could do that using ChatGPT. You could call into the API and get an answer back every time. But the cost of that goes through the roof as people find it, use it, and enjoy it. Right? So you're gonna end up with a bit of a paradox of the more users like your feature, the more it costs you to run it, right? So there's that aspect of just pure costing. Then there's the unpredictability of some of the most current AI systems, right? So when you think about generative AI writ large, if you have a system that's, whether it's generating images or text or speech or whatever, there's safety concerns to that. And so, if you're a developer, usually exactly what can happen in your game, right? So now if you have something where it is that kind of creative play that I just was talking about, how do you keep the bounds on it so it still doesn't get you in legal trouble of like saying the wrong things to people under 18, saying the wrong things in general, right? We've seen, all the way back to, I don't remember what year, I think it was like 2017, that Microsoft released a Twitter bot called Tay. And within 24 hours, Tay was ridiculously racist and sexist and homophobic and all the rest, because the internet's a bad place. And so, like, again, you have to put these things out there with the right parameters, and that's still a bit of an unknown field, right? We're still kind of figuring that out as we go as a field. So there's some of that just makes that complex. I think the last part of it is, some of this is just pure software development is a hard thing to do already. So how do you incorporate this somewhat burgeoning new field in and do it in the right ways and deploy it to apps, to have it disconnected from the internet and have it still work if you want that experience, right? Like, there's a lot to still kind of get distilled when it comes to these techniques.
Looking ahead, what exciting developments or trends do you foresee in the intersection of artificial intelligence and the gaming industry? Are there any untapped potentials or emerging applications that we should be excited about? All right, last question. Do you think that AI will have a more positive or negative effect on the gaming industry, and why?
I think it'll be positive. My reason for that is, generally speaking, games get better with technology advances, right? I can get nostalgic for Mario all I want, but like, current games are better than Mario is, right? Like, Mario was fun and I'll do it every time, like I'll play Pac-Man and there's something nice about Pac-Man, but I've only got about 10 minutes of patience for it. So, we've seen this kind of like forward push of games do tend to get better with better tech available to it. So I think the thing that needs to be watched out for from the developers and the people making it is, you don't want to get lazy. You still have to do your world building, or your really, like, what are the clever ways of interaction design, and all those kinds of things are still going to be very human tasks that need to be taken care of. But I think that adding another tool to a clever game designer's tool chest is always going to be positive on the whole. So I definitely would say it's going to improve things over time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.